Hello.
Yes, my name is Denise, and this is Kim, and this is the Dover Public Library podcast. Today, we're in the local history room. You can see behind me, they've got some directories. We also have yearbooks. Do you want to hold that one up? Yeah. And how far do the yearbooks go back?
The yearbooks for Dover High School started in 1915, and we go clear back to then.
Wow. Now, the local history room is in the basement of the library, and it's open 2 days a week from
10 a.m. until 2,
And
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
yes. And you're not allowed to come in and check something out, take it home, but you're welcome to look at it here. And then you can also make copies. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. We're like the reference section.
All right. Now, today we're going to talk about the Johnstown flood because it is the anniversary coming up of the Johnstown flood. And it is a lot of local history. Even though Johnstown is in Pennsylvania, it took some damage here. And Kim is going to talk a little bit about it today.
The Johnstown flood happened on May 31st, 1889, one of the worst natural disasters in United States history. And so we are doing multiple programs this year about the Johnstown flood.
All right. One of the things that we have is a book about the Johnstown flood by David McCullough. And I was telling Kim before we started that this fellow does such detailed research on an event that has happened, but it isn't boring at all.
No,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
he puts a lot of characters into his book, so it's not just the dry story of the history of something.
Right. It makes it fascinating, makes you want to learn more about exactly, what took place. But this is just one of many books, and we have them here at the library. What other things are we going to do to commemorate this anniversary?
The first one is coming up on Thursday. That's May 1st at 6:30, and we are having a professor from St. Francis University in Loretto, Pennsylvania, come to talk about his book, Disastrous Floods and the Demise of Steel in Johnstown. So this book talks about not just the 1889 flood, but there was another one in 1936 and another one in 1977. And so the one in 1977, I guess, really affected the economy of Johnstown. It's a steel mill town, and at that point in time, the steel mill was in, uh, the economy wasn't great in the 70s. The steel mill was kind of in bad shape to start with, and that flood really kind of brought about the demise of that mill.
Huh. Now, did it just rain? Did a dam break? How did Johnstown flood? What happened?
The first flood in 1889, there was torrential downpours. People talked about the fact that they had never seen rain like that before. But then there was also a dam 14 miles up the valley from Johnstown. It was an earthen dam and it broke. And so that's what brought the torrent of water for the 1889 flood. In 1936, it was the weather brought flooding, and that one brought about some programs for dam control and flood control that point in time. And then once again, the 1977 one was torrential downpours, and there was a dam that also was compromised during that one.
I see. Okay. And the next program that we're going to have, what is that one about?
That one is about the book.
Mhm.
Jim Gill is going to lead a discussion on the Johnstown Flood book by David McCullough. It is available here at the library. We also have the audiobook.
Mhm.
So he's going to lead that discussion at 6:30 on Wednesday, May 7th. So
Okay.
that will be a talk about the book. This is actually the first book that David McCullough wrote.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was written in 1968, and it was his first book. There's a video of him on the Johnstown Heritage Johnstown website about the Johnstown Flood Museum, where he says he loves Johnstown. Johnstown is America, just a mixture of people from everywhere.
Mhm.
And then after the flood, it's just a story of people who came together. And I mean, kind of insurmountable odds with the amount of destruction that went on, but the people just came together. Other people from other places came there and took care of the town,
Mhm.
helped them rebuild. And so we're going to talk about that book and all the different aspects of the flood. The South Fork Hunting and Fishing Club was who owned the dam.
Mhm.
This was a lot of the rich entrepreneurs from Pittsburgh who had cottages there.
Uh-oh.
The area there used it as a recreation area, and then you had Johnstown 14 miles down the valley, down below, along the Conemaugh River. It was a steel town. The Cambria Iron Works were there. So just a lot of working class people in that town working in the mills. So things that can be discussed while we look at the book.
All right. And then we have another program coming up, and that involves Chris Hart, correct?
Correct. Yes. Chris Hart is doing a living history portrayal of the Reverend H.L. Chapman, who was the minister of the Methodist Church in Johnstown during the flood.
And for those who don't know, Chris Hart does a lot of programs here at the library, and they are, he becomes a character. A lot of times he dresses in, like when he did Charles Dickens, he dressed like Dickens. He portrays, it's like a living history, and he becomes that character and tells about uh, a moment in time on how that affected the people, the area, and him as the character. Yes.
Yeah, he becomes history. He takes you back in time with his characters, and we don't want to give away the story of Reverend Chapman, but he does survive the flood. So
It's going to be interesting.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Okay. And then we have another program coming up, Rising Waters, because we're talking about Johnstown, Pennsylvania. How did it affect here in our county, Tusk County?
Tuscarawas County also has withstood a lot of floods over time. We didn't have one in the same year as Johnstown, but our big one here in the county was in 1913. That's all over the state of Ohio. It's called the Great Flood whenever you see anything about it. So here in town, I believe it was three bridges were washed out. The South Side Bridge in New Philly, the White Bridge above Dover, and then the bridge in Jeanette Hutton were all washed out. Um, Railroads were washed out. And then this was torrential rain and snow melting was what caused our flood. It was in March of 1913, started raining on Easter Day. And then as the floodwaters washed through here, they eventually, of course, make their way down the Muskingum River. So Zanesville gets flooded, and then down to the Ohio River. So Dayton and Cincinnati also withstood great floods, Marietta. So it was all over the state of Ohio, all kinds of destruction from those
Did
local
anyone
floods.
lose their life in that one?
Yes, not locally, but across the state there was loss of life. In Zanesville, a hotel collapsed in the floodwaters, so just all kinds of things like that happened. And then I believe it was Dayton fires started, which that's another part of the Johnstown flood story is a fire that started after the floodwaters came through.
In Johnstown, when the flood came through there, did how many people lost their lives in that?
2,209. Yes, a large loss of life in that flood. Part of that was just the swiftness that it came. The dam broke. They say at some points that water was 70 feet high because it was a valley.
Yeah.
And then it would pick up debris along the way. It carried trains away. I mean, if you can imagine that.
Oh,
And then when it gets to Johnstown, there's a big stone railroad bridge, and everything just started packing up against that bridge. The bridge held, it never fell down, and so everything just stacked up behind that bridge, and then eventually it caught on fire.
cleanup was very phenomenal.
Yes, they used dynamite. They had to use dynamite to break it apart eventually.
Wow. And what's the next one that's coming up?
So the Rising Waters one about the floods of Tuscarawas County is on Monday, May 19th at 6:30.
Okay.
And that's our last program here. And then the culmination of all of it is a field trip to Johnstown on May 30th.
And people are going to meet here at the library if they want to drive over to Johnstown and look in the museum.
Yes, it's kind of a get yourself there type thing. We can, follow one another, make those arrangements. You have to let Jim or Cheryl Rieger know that you want to go on this trip. And then I believe the tour is supposed to be at 11 o'clock.
Is there a fee to get in the museum?
$10.
Okay. All right.
That's not bad at all.
No, not at all. All right. Good. Um, anything you want to add about the flood Johnstown or the one in Tuscarawas County or anything about the local history room?
I'll share a couple photos that we have here in the local history room of the flood in 1913 in Tuscarawas County. This is in Dover. And when I do my program, I'm going to share a lot of these This is a building that was used for storage by the Dover Manufacturing Company. They made stat irons, and that collapsed. And so, like, they had like a 10,000 irons stored in there that they had to fish out of the floodwaters then. And 1913 was the big flood, but there were other floods in Tuscarawas County earlier. There's a book about 100 years history of Yurixville where he kind of talks about every spring how high the floodwaters got. And that's something we don't think about today because the Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District was made. They built Atwood, Tappan, all those lakes to control the waters now. So we just don't have that anymore. But this is a 1898 flood picture. That one's kind of shiny. Doesn't show up very well. But then, as I said, the South Side Bridge got washed out. So this is a ferry. They established a ferry service right away
Mhm.
to take people back and forth because they were completely cut off. No gas, no electricity, none of those things. Milk got scarce for a while in the county during the 1913 flood.
And if people want to come in, they can look at these pictures themselves and maybe take
Yes.
pictures of the pictures.
Yes, they are here at the local history room. There's quite an extensive postcard collection of the 1913 flood. The local photographers really probably kind of capitalized on the event to sell a lot of postcards. So we have a large collection of postcards on that flood.
Now, if somebody has maybe something on the Johnstown flood or the Tuscarawas flood or any other local history, they're cleaning up and they really don't want to keep it anymore, they can donate it
Yeah.
to the local history room.
Yes, they can. We are associated with the Dover Historical Society, so this is also considered their archives. So we do take donations of things. And with things like photographs, if you think they need to be shared, but you aren't quite ready to give them up yet, we can also scan them. So then we add them to a digital collection.
I see. All right. And all this is available to the public, like you had said, on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 2.
Yes.
All right. And if someone wants to come in, they can make an appointment with you. Like if
Yes.
there's something that they want to know about, and then you could research it for them.
Yep. If there's something specific, yep, just you can email me, kjerkovic@doverlibrary.org.
Okay, we can put that in the link below. And if you have any comments that you'd like to know, anything about local history, this is the lady to talk to. All right. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
No.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Kim.
Yep.
And
Thank you for having
thank
me.
you for turning in. All righty. Bye-bye. See you soon.